All right, we're going to skip Chapter 8, Section 3 because it's the basic factoring, and we're going to move into Chapter 8, Section 4, which we haven't done yet. In this case, there is a number in front of the x squared. So if you look right here, this is what makes this different and more difficult. So let's first look at factored form. So this is 5x plus 4. 3x plus 2 times 5x plus 4. If you FOIL this out, let me erase, you get your 15x squared plus your 12x plus your 10x plus your 8. So essentially, this 22x is the same thing as those two numbers broken down. Now, the diamond puzzles we were doing, we always had a 1 in front of the x squared. So this number up here was what they multiply to give you, and this is what they add to give you. Now, if we don't have a 1 in front of the x squared, we have to multiply the first times the last to see what it has to multiply to give you. So 15 times 8 is what we need to multiply to get. So the question is, what two numbers multiply to give you 120 that add to give you 22? And you can start your factor tree. 1 times 120. You can put the x's here, you can put them in later. 2 times 60. 3 times 40. 4 times 30. 5 times 24. 6 times 20. 7 doesn't go into it. 8 does not go into it. Actually, 8 does. 8 times 15. 9 does not go into it. 10 does go into it. So these are all of my factors. Now, I'm looking for which one adds to give 22. Because this adds to give 22, I'm going to write it out the long way. So 15x squared plus 10x plus 12x plus 8. So I've got my 15 and my 8, just like I have my 15 and my 8. And then instead of the 22, I'm writing out this 12x plus 10x. And then just like we did last night, we're going to group 2 and 2 and factor that way. So 15x squared plus 10x, I'm going to take a 5x out. I'm left with 3x plus 2. Back here, I'm going to take a 4 out, and I'm left with 3x plus 2. As you can see, my parentheses is the same. So 3x plus 2 is out front, and 5x plus 4 is what's left over. So if I was given this expanded factor, this is how I would do it. All right, here we go. You already know how to do this. So I'm going to keep cruising. Okay. 3n squared plus 11n minus 4. So I'm going to multiply the first times the last. That's a negative 12n squared. So that's what the two numbers multiply to give you. And then they would add to give you whatever's in the middle, which is 11n. So I'm thinking of all of my factors of negative 12n squared. So if it has to add to give me a positive, my bigger number is going to be a positive. So 12 and 1 negative is already my answer. I don't even need to go any farther. So I have 12 and negative 1. That multiplies to give negative 12, adds to give 11. I can do what I just showed you. I can also plug in my 3n squared and my negative 4 from my initial problem. And then my 11n, instead of 11n, I'm writing 12n and negative 1n. Now I need to figure out what goes on the outside to get me all these numbers. So 3, if this is 12, this is going to have to be my 3. And this is going to have to be my n. That gets me my 3n squared. If this is 3n, this is going to have to be 4, because 3n times 4 is 12n. If this is 4, this is a negative 4, so negative 1 is going to have to be on the outside over here, and negative 1 times n gives me my negative 1n. Well, this is my factored form. Right here, n plus 4, and right here, 3n minus 1. Now, just like I did in the first problem, it's the exact same thing as if I rewrote this 3n squared. Instead of 11n, I'm putting in 12n plus negative 1n. I want to make it plus a negative because I can't put parentheses next to a negative. And then my minus 4. And then you group. That's why I had to make it plus a negative. Greatest common factor here, 3n. We're left over with n plus 4. Greatest common factor here, negative 1. And we have n plus 4. N plus 4. And we're left over with 3n minus 1. Check it out. The same exact thing. That's how you factor the long way. So we have another big daddy here. So two numbers multiply to give us 4 times negative 15, which is negative 60x squared. And that adds to give us negative 10. If you're losing your negatives, slash and dash. Now, you can make a little factor tree. Adding to get a negative, so much bigger number would be negative. So we can start with negative 60 and 1, but that doesn't work. Negative 30 and 2. Negative 20 and 3. These are all still not working. Negative 15 and 4. Negative 12 and 5. Negative 10 and 6. So this is prime. None of these factors add to give us negative 10. So we cannot even factor that. It's done. So let's know if it's not doable. Okay, this one, we're going to multiply. The first times the last. That's a negative 6x squared. Has to multiply to give you that. Has to add to give you 7x. Okay, so negative 6x squared. One has to be a positive and one has to be a negative. So I would have to do like negative 6x and positive 1x. That does not add to 7. Negative 3x and positive 2x. So this again is prime. Nothing multiplies to give you negative 6x squared that adds to give you 7. Okay, let's try this one. So negative 2x squared times negative 7 is a positive 14x squared. And it's going to add to give negative 15x. So I actually already know that this is going to be negative 1x and negative 14x. Two negatives multiply to give you a positive and add to give you a negative. You could make a factor tree if you need to. Now I'm going to make my box. My negative 2x squared and my negative 7 go in the opposite corners. This goes in the other two corners. It does not matter which is which. You will get the same answer no matter what. Now we need to figure out what all of these numbers need to be. So if this is negative 2x squared, this is probably going to have to be the 2x for sure, and this is going to have to be an x. Now, one of these needs to be negative. Since this is 2x, I'm looking at my negative 14x here, so this is going to have to be 7. I'm noticing this is negative 7, so if I make this negative, let's see if this works. This is my negative 1x, this is my positive x, so this would have to be negative 1. Now, let's check this out. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. This way. So, my factored form is x plus 7, negative 2x minus 1. If you are not one with the boxes, you're welcome to write this out the long way. So negative 2x squared. Instead of a negative 15x, we're writing a negative 1x and a negative 14x. Then we need to add our negative 7 in. In the first two, the greatest common factor is a negative x, and we're left over with a 2x plus 1. In the back here, I need to get a 2x plus 1, so I'm going to take out a negative 7 and 2x plus 1. So my factored form is 2x plus 1 and negative x minus 7. Now, because every single sign is the opposite, those are actually the exact same. It's the same exact answer. Both of those answers are correct. If you FOIL them out, you'll get the same answer. Because I could take a negative 1 out of this, and then I can have my x plus 7 and 2x plus 1. So that's another way to look at it. But this is a great answer. This is a great answer. They're the same exact answer, and that's how. Give 1, we would think about factors of negative 56. If you 8 and negative 7. Now, you have your 8x and your negative 7x. So again, you need to figure out what goes. Those are both x's, because x times x is x squared. And this is 8x. This would have to be negative 7, because negative 7 times x is a negative 7x. And then does negative 7 times 8 give negative 56? Yes. And that is how you get your factored form with the box. You could do this in the other way I showed, writing out the 1x squared plus the 8x plus the negative 7x plus the negative 56. minus 7 as the leftover. This helps you see it that way. So this is just an easy version of what we just did. That's the harder version. When you just have to just get the two factors, and that's what's in your